All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate everybody for taking the time this morning to learn a little bit about how we're doing in Campbell County. I think this is a great opportunity for us to provide you with a data update specific to Campbell County, but it's also a chance for us to remind everyone of the work that we're doing. I think it's often easy to think of Tennessee Achieves as is just a scholarship or just a mentor program. And we've realized really since the pandemic that a lot of people aren't aware of all of the different things that Tennessee Achieves does in a community. So we're going to take this time to talk a little bit about our program, some of the things that we're doing so that you're aware of those, and then we'll wrap it up with a call to action and some of the things that I think that as community members you can do to support Tennessee Achieves, but not just Tennessee Achieves, but post-secondary opportunities in general in the community. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Ben Sterling. I serve as the Senior Director of Content at Tennessee Achieves. I feel like I know everyone on the call, so good to see so many old friends, and certainly appreciate you for hopping on and hearing from me today. Unfortunately, not in person, but hopefully soon again. But again, like I said, today's presentation is going to focus on several different things, but I think we'll start off by talking really about just Tennessee Achieves in general and really the scope of our work. And the things that we're doing. So as you can see on your screen, we've got a slide. It shows all the counties that we serve. So again, Tennessee Achieves launched 12 years ago with the class of 2009 in Knox County and has slowly grown or quickly grown ever since. We went from one county to 12 counties in 2012. One of those counties that we expanded to was Campbell County. So we've actually been working in Campbell County since 2012, worked with many students since then. Today we serve nearly every student in the state, as you'll see in a couple of slides. Since our inception, we've worked with over 440,000 students and recruited more than 70,000 volunteer mentors. And again, our reach, it's pretty broad. We're working now with 90 counties across the state. 74 of those are rural counties, Campbell obviously being one of those. 35 of our counties are designated as at risk or distressed by the Department of Community and Economic Development. Obviously, our work important in those communities. And in those counties, we're working with over 600 high schools annually. When it comes to our college partners, working with 67 different institutions. As you would imagine, most of our students end up at a community college across the state in terms of Tennessee Promise eligibility, nearly 80%. That TCAT number, though, I always keep my eye on that. It's a number that's continued to grow. When we first launched with the class of 2015, it was 8%. So we've continued to go up there. And in a lot of counties, I think we've really felt that in some of our more rural counties, the TCATs continue to be a popular option for students. And I think we all could probably see why. And then as we continue to talk about our reach and the number of students that we work with, on this slide, you'll see we work with 60,000 students annually. That equates to 89% of Tennessee's high school seniors. And for me and our staff, this is a number that's kind of hard to wrap our mind around, but almost 90% of every senior in the state at some point or another gets an email from Tennessee Achieves. I think that's pretty impressive. When you shake it all out, 78% of all first-time, full-time freshmen at community colleges are Tennessee Achieves students. So nearly every student, I think even better than that. If you look at the next number, 86% of all Tennessee community college graduates are Tennessee Achieves students. That, again, another number that's kind of hard to wrap my mind around, but I do think it's an impressive feat nonetheless, and it continues to show why our work matters. A couple just general demographic numbers. This is a statewide number, not specific to Campbell County. 56% of our students are eligible for federal financial aid. That just means that they're from a family whose income deems that they're eligible for some sort of federal assistance. 40% of our students say that they're first-generation college students. I would argue that this number is kind of hard to put your finger on. I was actually helping Chrissy work on a journal that she was writing with, talking about first-generation students and how hard it is to determine who's a first-generation college student, because it can be determined in a lot of different ways. But the way that I see it is if they graduate from college and they're the first person in their direct family, their parents and their siblings, if they graduate from college and they're the first one to do that, they're a first-generation college student. Like that was me. My dad went to college for a year, didn't accomplish anything. And so I was a first-generation college student when I graduated. So 40% may be low. I don't know that all students understand. I think when they think they have a cousin or an aunt or an uncle that went to college, they don't understand that. So I'd really love to know what our actual number is there. And we actually worked on a project with the National Science Board a couple of weeks ago, and they asked us to figure out how many of our students are majoring in some sort of STEM or health science field. Over half of our students have a major in those, because this also includes technical training, so all of the programs at TCAT would be looped in here. And I think this is really important, especially when you think about economic development. A place like Campbell County, for example, that does have a growing industry, having so many students that are majoring in these STEM and science related fields, it matters. And I think those students will be fortunate when they graduate and find jobs and careers. And at the bottom of this slide, you'll just see some general numbers. Some people are always interested in knowing about this. The Tennessee Promise annual cost is about $32 million a year. This is about $1,000 per award is what Tennessee Promise award ends up being. The Tennessee Achieves annual operating budget, $2.5 million. This equates to paying people like my salary and all of our programming and travel reimbursement and things along those lines. We do have some staff members now whose salary is supplemented from some state dollars. So we're not 100% privately fundraised like we used to always say, but to this day, we still have a $2.5 million operating budget that we privately fundraise in-house. So let's talk about some of the work that Tennessee Achieves is doing. Obviously, Tennessee Promise is sort of the backbone of the work that we do. It's what brings all of the students to us. We call it the carrot for Tennessee Achieves. And for those of you that are maybe unfamiliar, Tennessee Promise is a last dollar scholarship that's available to every Tennessee high school senior, allows them to attend community or our state's technical colleges, tuition and mandatory fee free. Tennessee Achieves is tasked with the job of administering this scholarship in 90 counties across the state. So really, when a student hears or a family hears that their student can go to college for free, that's attractive. So they apply for the scholarship. When they apply for Tennessee Promise, we get their information, and then we begin to expose them to the variety of different resources and programs that we administer. The first one of those that they'll come into contact with is our volunteer mentor program. We'll talk a lot more about volunteer mentors in just a few minutes, but essentially every Tennessee Promise student that completes the FAFSA is paired with a volunteer mentor that coaches them through the process. They're going to complete and submit community service hours. This is a tenet of our program. It was part of the initial class back in 2009 of Tennessee Achieves, Knox Achieves, because of one of our founding board members, Randy Boyd. Some of you know who he is an Eagle Scout and is very much passionate about the value of community service, and saw it as if a student's going to get a semester's worth of college paid for, the least they could do is give back a work day of community service. So that's something that we very much still believe in, continue to push that through our program, and students are completing those hours every year. Our summer programs are also a big deal to us. It's something that we've continued to innovate and make better every year. This year, we launched an online bridge program. Never had that before, obviously in response to the pandemic, but sort of an unintentional benefit of that program was that it gave students who maybe have some transportation challenges to our in-person summer bridge programs the same option of being able to test out a learning support, give them that a little bit of additional college support before they start college in the fall. So I think the online bridge program is something that we'll keep and probably continue to make better, just from feedback from instructors and students. We also have our Summer Institute that was only in Memphis the last couple of years that we're continuing to try to grow, which is essentially summer bridge, but on steroids. It's a 10-week program. Well, it was 6 weeks this year. That's credit bearing. So students that complete that program enter college with 9 credit hours while also eliminating the need for remediation. So Summer Institute is a huge program, incredibly complex, but something that for the students that participate, it's a huge win. And then we launched Complete back in 2019. This is our coaching model. So students that are from a lower income background, they are paired with a staff member who begins working with them the fall of their college freshman year. So their first semester right now, actually. And the staff member works with them all the way through graduation. Each staff person is assigned a community college service area. So in Roane State service area, we have a staff person there who works with students from all of the region's high schools that are designated as complete students. And we identified students based on income because from our research, that seems to be the greatest indicator of student persistence. Students from a low income background tend to drop off at a much higher clip than students who aren't from a low income background. So that's where we found the reason to pair our complete coaches with students. We're seeing a lot of success with that program. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then as I wrap up kind of the staples of our work, communication being the most important part of what we do. I think for people that work with us on an everyday basis, I think we probably just do nothing but send emails because we send millions every year, including millions of texts as well. So the good thing about the communication that we do, I think it's really unique. I think a lot of programs have looked at the way that we communicate with students and try to model that because we have a way of tracking pretty much every step of the way where a student has completed or hasn't completed. So we can be very targeted in our communication approach to when a student hasn't completed a Tennessee Promise step. We know that, and we can borderline harass them to get that done before the deadline, right? And we've continued to innovate in our communication space every year and going to continue to do that. All right, let's talk about data. That's why you're all here. So this slide, just really high level data, FAFSA file rate and community service, obviously, but we're going to get into the county level data. Anytime your county is exceeding the state average in anything, I think is good. So when you look at the FAFSA file rate, it comes as no surprise to me that Campbell County is above the state average there. Always is, probably always will be. When you have a counselor like Catherine Ayers at Campbell County High School that is very much familiar with the work and is very much bought into the work, this is what you see, good numbers. Community service hours, our students statewide have completed over 3 million hours of community service in Campbell County, over 18,000 hours. I would argue there's probably some organizations in Campbell County that have benefited directly from this. If they haven't, this is a great opportunity for you as community members to remind them that they can advertise to Tennessee Promise students to get those volunteer hours, and it's certainly encouraged by us. And if you ever want us to send something out to students, just let us know. Let's talk about student success. As we look at Campbell County versus the state, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised as you look through these numbers. So with the class of 2021, we had 353 Tennessee Promise applicants. And then the other numbers in the middle, the enrolled number and the first year retention rate number, this is from the class of 2019. So you had 133 students enroll, 77% of those return fall to fall retention. 10 percentage points above the state average. I think that's huge, something that should be applauded for sure. And I think it just speaks to the value of having high quality local post-secondary options. I think that's something I always try to talk to students in Campbell County about every time I'm there, is that you don't realize how lucky you are to have a TCAT, a full-blown TCAT in your community, and a really good community college campus with Tracy's campus there. You're not at a shortage of opportunities in your backyard. And I think that this
yes, we do.
Absolutely. And then you see the 3-year graduation rate, again, above the state average. Again, no surprise here. Really, really great. And just kudos to Debbie and Tracy for just continuing to provide students with a variety of options, not just the baseline, but going above and beyond every year to make sure that students have something new, whether that's early college, whether that's building a new building at TCAT, all of those things, continuing to innovate and make Campbell County an attractive place for students to go to college. So let's zoom out, talk a little bit about the statewide numbers. When it comes down to first year retention, that fall to fall retention, you'll see that we talk about that a lot. Because, and I think Tracy and Debbie and anybody that's involved in higher ed, Dwayne, anybody involved in higher ed would agree with me that if we can get a student to return after that first year, their chances of graduation skyrocket. So we're always looking at, when it comes to our programs, are they impacting fall to fall retention? And if they are, we keep them. So as you can see, first year retention for our students in general, 14 percentage points above the state average. And then when it comes to students at any college, we're at 74%, but we look at those Promise eligible institutions specifically because those are where our eligible students are enrolling. And then when it comes to 6-year graduation, 16 percentage points above the state average there. So these are numbers that we're awfully proud of course. But if you look on the side of this screen, you'll see how our programs are affecting that first year retention. Summer program students, those that participate in a summer program, are 34% more likely to retain or return after that first year of college. Our coached students through complete are 23% more likely. And then we haven't talked about it yet, but Knox Promise students who are just in Knox County working through our Knox Promise program are 42% more likely to retain fall to fall. And Knox Promise essentially is complete. It's a coaching model, but it's partnered with what we call completion grants, but those are emergency funds. So for students who are going through this college process, they encounter a roadblock, a financial roadblock or hardship, and we can determine that that is somehow affecting their ability to succeed in college. We have money that we can help offset that cost for students. we're excited to say that this week we're actually launching statewide complete grants with some support from the General Assembly to basically take what we've done with Knox Promise and those completion grants and scale that to every student in the state. So students in Campbell County are going to get an email about that this week and have the opportunity. They did get an email about that this week, and they have the opportunity to request this funding if they need help with paying for textbooks or a variety of other things. Well, we've had great news. And now let's talk about the not so great news. So obviously, when it comes to a pandemic, you have a lot of things that aren't great. And one of those things that we've determined and seen, and you've probably seen too, is the decline in the state's college going rate. To see a lot of this hard work that all of us, everybody on this call, has really put a lot of work in to see this college going rate increase. If you look back from 14 to 15 with the launch of Tennessee Promise, 4.6% increase in the college going rate was unprecedented. It was more than the last 7 years combined. And then in 1 year, we saw all of that come down with the class of 2020. And in Campbell County, we saw a 9 percentage point decrease. So obviously, we expected this. I don't think it's shocked anyone. But I think what it says to us is that if there's a time to get involved with the work, it's now. If you are a mentor, please come back next year, because I think there's no more important time to be involved in the work. If you work in higher ed, you know that already, but if you don't, now's the time. So let's talk about what it means to be a mentor. I think all of you on here are a mentor or have been a mentor with Tennessee Achieves at some point. In 2019, our program looked like it did. In 2015, not a lot had changed. It was very much in person. We had those huge meetings at the high schools. You met with your students. You got to know them in person. And then obviously in 2020, we weren't able to do that, or in 2021, we weren't able to do that. Went 100% virtual, launching a new mentor platform that I think was wildly successful for a lot of mentors with Tennessee Achieves Connect. And I think in 2022, we're going to have the option to do a little bit of both. We're going to be able to provide Tennessee Achieves Connect. We're going to keep that. So for mentors, you got that option. You can meet with your students virtually there. It allows you to track your students' progress. We're going to continue to make Connect better. But we're also going to provide mentors with the opportunity to meet with students in person if they want to, by leveraging facilities in each county, especially those like Campbell who have a college campus. We can use that facility to host what we're going to call Tennessee Achieves open houses. It's basically we're going to request space at a post-secondary institution for like 3 hours. We're going to provide mentors and show them that we're there from 2 to 5 on this day, and you can invite your students to meet you there. So giving mentors and students the meeting place to come together, or mentors can meet with students on their own independently in the community, just as long as you're not putting them in your car and you're meeting in a public space. But again, mentoring in terms of time commitment, in terms of the tasks, none of that's going to change. The cycle is going to remain the same, but we're going to try to provide mentors with a multitude of ways to try to engage with students, because we did hear from some mentors that virtual mentoring wasn't their favorite. So we're going to be able to provide both options in 2022. Really, I think the best of both worlds, if you will. We're going to need 53 mentors in Campbell County. Never not met our goal in Campbell County. So I have no doubts that we'll get there again. We're usually crossing the 53 mark or the goal mark well before the deadline there, because there just seems to be so many people engaged in our work in Campbell County. So we're obviously appreciative of that. The deadline to apply as a mentor with the class of 2022 is December 3rd. So we still have some time. So let's talk about some action items, some things that you can do now to continue to propel Tennessee Achieves in the community and in the region. Obviously, we've already talked about it. The first one of those is signing up to be a mentor, and telling your friends to sign up to be mentors. Please do that. Application process is super easy. tnAchieves.org. On our homepage, there's a link there. But the other two ways I think you can engage with our work are also pretty easy. Connecting us with your community. So if you are a member of a church group that has an opportunity for a community member to speak, we'll be there. Let us know. Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, Civitan, whatever it is. If you're part of a group and you need a speaker, our team is willing to make willing to make the drive up 75 and come talk to your group. Would love to come visit. And employers, if you have employees that you think would make good mentors and are looking for a way to get involved in the community, please just connect us with them. We have all of the information for social media posts, newsletter blasts, again, in-person or virtual mentor programs. We can do all of that. And then the last thing, I think, just tell someone about the Tennessee Promise application. It opened on August 1st. It closes on November 1st. So we're about halfway through the application period, a little bit less than halfway through the application period. But I think sometimes we maybe even take it for granted how popular Tennessee Promise was in 2015. It still is popular, but it's not going to hurt anything just to go out there and sort of just spread the word about Tennessee Promise to a high school senior or to a family that you maybe think maybe they don't remember or they might miss out on an email about it. I can tell you my brother missed the tnAchieves application. And I was a student in this program when it launched. I was a student ambassador with this program after I graduated. And my brother missed the application. So it can happen to anybody. And so if you think that a student has it all together and you're not sure if they've completed that Tennessee Promise application, just remind them. It can't hurt, certainly can't hurt. But here's my contact information. Most of you probably already have that. But I'm going to open the floor for questions. So as any questions that you guys have, I have you till 9:30. So if you have any questions, comments, anything, floor is open. Feel free to unmute yourself and fire away.
And this Mayor Morton, I like the sound of that summer program in Memphis with those credit hours. Mm-hmm. That's pretty strong.
Yeah,
how do they pull that off?
Yeah, we actually we partner with Southwest Tennessee Community College at one of their smaller campuses. That's sort of in the it's in South Memphis, so it's in a neighborhood. The campus is in a neighborhood, so a lot of the students don't have significant transportation challenges for that 6 or 10 week commitment. And then we just partner with the college to make that happen. We started the program with some support from Randy Boyd. We've continued to grow that program now with some college partner funding as well. So we've tried to launch this. This year it was, I don't want to tell you the wrong number. It was less than 30. 29.
Well, it's good to know that's out there. Who knows, we might be able to expand it to us later.
Yes, sir. Definitely. It's we tried to launch this program in Nashville, but and in Knoxville. We've just had a hard time getting students to agree to the 6 weeks of transportation to the campus every day. So it's every day, and it's almost all it's 9 to 2 every day. So it is high intensity, but it yields high results. 100% success rate this year.
Well, and we've got, Ethra's got the public transportation vans, and we can contract those if we can facilitate something like that. Let us know.
Yeah, sure, certainly reach out, and we're happy to have those conversations, no doubt.
Ben, could you say a little bit more about Complete, what it provides, and in terms of extra resources? I do hear about transportation, textbooks, some of those other kinds of issues were needed.
Yeah, so Complete, as it stands without completion grants, they're essentially a student's paired with a coach who's reaching out to those students multiple times a month. Their goal is to connect with 75% of their student assignment every month, the coach is. And that would be either through a text message, through a phone call, or an email. They tend to prefer a phone call if they can get them on the phone, but they will count a text message too. So they have scheduled, that we call them interventions, but essentially pieces of outreach that go out to their group of students throughout the month. And then as they engage with students throughout the month, they track those conversations with the students, and they track that communication every month throughout the time that the student is in college to keep a beat on them. So if you have a student who is not doing well, they know that. If the student's excelling, they know that too. And they're able to track those students and maintain that relationship. Really, for us, the whole reason we launched Complete was to build this layer of accountability for students. And I think students really appreciate that layer of accountability. And now that we're able to partner the Complete grants to that, it really takes it an entire step further, which really, yes, transportation is something that Complete grants can be used for. So if a car is broken down, we can help pay for the repair on that. We can't buy a car, but we can repair an existing car. We can put a tire on a car, or we can help pay for, we've helped pay for housing. We've helped pay for childcare. We've helped pay, obviously, lots of textbooks and materials. That tends to be the most popular. Food is another big one. Gas is another one. Food, gas, and textbooks are our largest expenditures in terms of complete grants. But it's really helpful.
If I could just share some information for students that will be coming to TCAT in the fall in Campbell County, we are using a large portion of stimulus money to do something similar to supplement. So if you're mentoring a student with us and they're having financial issues, we do have the availability of quite a bit of money this still remaining for this year that will help students going forward with additional needs beyond financial aid. And it's pretty broad as to what they can use it for. Basically, tell us they've been impacted by COVID and request funds to do whatever they need, and we have that available.
That's awesome. So that's at your TCAT or all TCATs?
It's a campus by campus decision on how to use our institutional funds. Being in a rural area, we got quite a bit of money. So we've made some accommodations on campus to make it a safer campus, but we do have money that we can use to assist students in addition to the direct money that is just going directly to them. But we have that pot of money that we can tap into that's for institutional purposes for above and beyond.
Wow. Okay. So
who
they
did
just
contact?
just
Debbie? I know
aid.
one student right now. I want to tell about this.
All right. And we try to do a good job of communicating with current students and those incoming, but they can come to me, they can come to student services. As long as we know there's a need, we'll connect them.
Okay. That makes it easy for sure.
Thank you.
That's great.
I have just one thing to say. Every time I read that 12 hours is all it takes to be a mentor, I laugh. It takes more than that, Ben.
Oh, do you think so?
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the minimum. So we get that number from the mentor survey. So we survey the entire mentor population. We let them tell us how much time they take. Now, Maureen, I believe it does take you more than that because you invest. You take more than 12 hours. There's no doubt about it. You are invested in your students. You go above and beyond. You are the exception to that, I would believe. There's no doubt about it.
Ben,
I appreciate you for that.
Ben, you had a slide, I think it was probably like 7 or 8 that had graduation rates on it. What was the time frame for that? I think it was 3-year graduation rates.
It's a good question. So on the one where we had the Campbell County number versus the state, that was 3
years.
That's for the class of 17.
Okay, super, thank you.
Yeah, and then the next slide has a 6-year rate on it, which is for the class of 14. We weren't able to show 6-year by county because we haven't been in all 90 counties for 6 years yet. Next year we will. Yeah, awesome. Any other questions? Anybody else? Certainly appreciate this good crowd. We had a great crowd here. A lot of good feedback. Appreciate Mayor and Tracy and Debbie for hopping on with us. All right, if nobody has anything else, that's all I've got. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for hopping on, and I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks. See y'all. Bye-bye.